Hello, fabulous listeners. Thanks for tuning in to Old Bodies Outside. This is your host, Brian Peterson. This episode is exciting because it connects research about the health benefits of exercising in the outdoors with someone who has used the outdoors as a medium to boost their own well being. This episode's guest is Nick Barlow, who is an avid gravel bike rider. However, he wasn't always adventuring in the outdoors and has found that the outdoors provide solace and many health benefits that we will hear more about during this episode. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you on Old Bodies Outside.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited for this. And, as I just said in the introduction, I'm a researcher and we research health benefits and people's experiences in the outdoors, but it's always great to actually get outside of the research and hear about people's experiences. So I truly am excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, where are you connecting in from?
So I am currently in Kendal, which is in Cumbria. So the Lake District, if anybody's heard of that, in the northwest of England. So we're just underneath Scotland, but it's a wilderness out here. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty. And man, if you can ever visit, do so. I'll be your tour guide. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I gotta say, in my preparations for this episode, I was looking over some pictures that you have on the internet, and I was blown away by how beautiful it is. I mean, it's really and very wild looking too.
Dude, it is. I mean, the most of the UK has like rural parts, but not too many mountainous parts. There's various hills and things like that, but where I'm based in the Lake District, we've got two of the biggest mountains in England here, and so that's a great start, right? And there's actually 214 mountains here, so it's huge. It's starting around sort of like 300 meters, which is tiny, and only sort of going up to 900 meters. So it's not quite North America, and it's not quite the Alps, but and it's definitely not sort of the Everest region either. But it's our own little bit of mountainous paradise for sure.
Well, in your mountainous paradise, looking at pictures, it looks steep.
Yeah, dude.
Like
So where I'm originally from, sort of from the Manchester area, it's fairly flat. And I look at my friends on Strava doing all like elevation with their riding, and they do like 50, 60K, and they might do 100 to 200 meters of climbing. In my sort of like 20K circuit that I'll do just if I need a quick blast out on the bike, I have like 300 meters of elevation. So there's hills everywhere. And sort of in the south side where I am, it's not so bad. But sort of like 3 months ago, I was up in the north, and every single ride that I did involved a really, really steep climb to just get out of anywhere. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's steep. Yeah.
That sounds, it probably exhilarating too. I mean, it sounds like a lot of challenges associated with that terrain.
Yeah, it's sort of in my short time cycling, it's helped me get better quicker. I've got such mixed terrain, sort of and elevation to sort of to go at, and so you have no choice. There isn't any flat spots, so if you're riding uphill, it's sort of it's helped me become a better rider straight off the get-go.
Yeah. There's just so much more technical aspects to it, probably, that you just get better as a rider.
Yeah, you have to. There's no other choice. I mean, I ride a gravel bike, but most of it's mountain bike, so we sort of ride the gravel bikes like mountain bikes sometimes.
Nice. Do you ever do any what do they call it, bike touring, where you pack some overnight stuff and camp out and whatnot?
100%. So I am one of another half. I'm a twin. So my brother Andrew, who's technically the younger brother, he's 2 minutes younger than me. He got me into cycling. I'm mostly into the outdoors as well. We both sort of dabbled in Cubs and Scouts as kids, but to like do the whole bike packing thing, that's literally started with my brother. And so they're my adventures that we look forward to. Most of the time we're off to Scotland. We've done a trip in the Peak District recently. And then, we can just do overnighters here. I can ride literally from my front door 20Ks and I'm in the middle of nowhere. So, halfway up a mountain in a bivy bag and something like that. We can do that. So it's ideal.
Yeah, ideal would be the word. It sounds just ideal and fantastic. That's great. So why don't we take us back a little bit in your life here? You talked that you were in Scouts and whatnot, and you've been doing some adventures with your brother, but what led you to the outdoors and being someone who, really wants to be out there just about on a daily basis? What kind of in your life trajectory led you to this point of the loving the outdoors so much?
Yeah, so like sort of like flashback to those childhood eras. It was Cubs and Scouts, and I grew up on a farm, and so being outdoors was staple in my life. Like I was following my dad around in my muck boots, sort of wandering around, helping with cows, helping on the tractor and what we could do. And but through my teenage years, I found music, and that's sort of what led me inwards. And I toured a lot, and sort of throughout my 20s, I came to the end of that, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And my brother had moved up to the Lake District. It's only about 2 hours where we're actually from. Nothing's majorly far away from anything in the UK. And I'd never actually been. I kept putting it off because I was touring. He's like, no, you need to come and see us. And I was like, right. And he'd actually bought me like this little log cabin experience thing. So like, it's we call it glamping over here. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but it's a posh side of camping, and that was a start. I was at a place called Ullswater, which is one of the 14 lakes that we have here, and it was November, so it's really cold and really wet, and I was just blown away by, by just by the nature here. So it was that November, I was like, right, I'm gonna move. And I'd moved to Kendal by the January. My brother had already been out here 2 years, and I just fell in love with it. And so, sort of going from like a hermit, inside, I was like, I need to make the most of it. And there was a couple of health conditions that I had, sort of, well, I've had all my life prior to here, that sort of restricted me getting out. And it was sort of the encouragement from my brother, that familiarity that sort of encouraged me to start stepping outside. And sort of once I discovered that world, I was like, wow, this is unreal. This is here on my doorstep. Like, the people come from all over the world to visit here, and I'm fortunate enough to have that idea to move and change my life about it. So I'm gonna make use of it. And so the start of that was only in 2020, and we had COVID in the middle of that, and so throughout the amount of time of that, my playground, my backyard's mountains, so that's literally where it all started.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic to hear that you have such a great support system with your brother. And then secondly, I love that you called your backyard your playground, because in the end, you're going out and playing, right?
Yeah.
You're just having fun in nature and playing, and there's no expectations, nothing. Just
No.
go out for a ride and enjoy nature. And as you were talking there, it reminded me of my first trip in which I went backpacking out in nature. It's not like backpacking around cities and trains,
Uh-huh.
well, not like that, but like hiking down a trail, setting up camp and whatnot. And I remember the first time I went backpacking, it was 2008. And that first night, I remember like getting in my sleeping bag, my tent, and being like, man, this has been missing from my entire life. And I never knew it, but it's so fulfilling. I'm going to do this the rest of my life.
it's so funny. I was talking with my brother last night. I was like, my first camping trip, I took an electric toothbrush because I didn't know about how comfortable I'd be, But like you say, you don't really know what you're missing until you get out and do it. And
Yeah.
There was a running joke that my favorite things about camping is packing it all down, but it's the sort of the effort that you have to go to because it's primal. There's no distractions, and your survival, as sort of hard as that sounds, is up to you in those moments. So it strips it right back to sort of human nature, technology aside. So as long as I've got 4 walls inside my tent, or I've got a waterproof bivy bag, I'm happy. This is me. I'm safe and secure. But out in those elements, you feel something. You're responsible for yourself, and there's no distractions. And so yeah, you don't know what you're missing until you get outside and do it. So I'd encourage anybody that says I would hate to do that to just try it once.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there is a satisfaction with that primal aspect. And I definitely relate to that primal aspect. And there's something about, you're taking care of yourself. That's the focus. Hopefully, my cell phone's not connected to any um, any internet at all. And so like there's a lot less anxiety going on inside of me. Like I'm kind of just focused on what I need to do. I'm not focused on, text messages, emails, whatever it is. And there's that primal aspect. I think it's deeply embedded in all of us. Some of us it's deeper than others, but it's
Yeah,
there somewhere. And I think when it gets tapped into, like when I personally tap into it, my anxiety washes away, and it's really nice.
that's it. I think because I struggle, well, still do, but struggle with anxiety. I have to think, I have to sit into that almost. I'm worried about being away and about getting back, but also I'm like, just relax, just chill, because I think for me that fight or flight kicks in because I've suffered, and once I ride that out, I'm like, this is me here for the night. Now I've done countless trips, but and no, never really that far from civilization, bar a couple, and so there's nothing ever to be worried about. But once I do sort of get over that wave, and you just the birds are singing, or the stars are shooting, or whatever. It's amazing. I spent time in Edinburgh with my brother and my friend Max last summer, and no cell service or anything like that. Just by a reservoir, and I've known Max for like 10 plus years, and we all thrive on bikes, and we just chatted shit all night until we were ready to hit the bivy bags and go to sleep. And even the broken sleep's fun because you're out in
Yeah.
the elements. And yeah, it's a break from structure, it's a break from routine, the rat race. And I think that's that primal aspect of like connecting with nature in that way, lying on the floor and looking up at the trees. Fantastic.
Yeah. And I think for me, there's always a bit of a sense of accomplishment behind doing those trips where I got out and did something, and that makes me feel really good about myself.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how. I always say this, like sort of through my Instagram. It doesn't matter how far you go, how fast you do it. I'm not bothered about fastest known times. I'm never ever going to be the fastest rider. But what I can do is sort of experience one of these things that I might have not have ever done before. And it's as long as you're doing something, something's everything. It's not nothing. So yeah,
Yeah.
get outside and just have a go.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot, the way that you approach it. And I ran cross country in college. It was very structured, and you got to run at a certain pace. You have to cover a certain distance. And when I got done with running in college, I was sick of running.
Yeah.
It was so structured. And now I've adopted trail running. I like going out trail running. And when I go trail running, I say, hey, like I got 2 hours this afternoon, and I just have a cheap watch. It doesn't GPS me. It doesn't tell me my pace. Doesn't tell me my distance. I'll just set it and watch my time so that I know that I can be out there for 2 hours, because that's the gap I have in the day. But I do not pay attention to pace. I do not pay attention to distance. And it just, going back to that play comment that I said earlier, it just feels like with it being unstructured like that and not having like, oh, I got to do this, got to do that. Like it feels even better.
Yeah, that sort of similar to sort of like tapping into play. You've got 2, 3, 4 hours. When you're a kid, your parents will go, okay, it's 4 p.m. You're in at 6 p.m. for your dinner. Okay, I've got 2 hours to play with there, and for me, it's sort of reconnecting back to that. Like I'll be like, all right, I've got a gap in the weather. I've got an hour to get a ride done. So where do I want to go? What do I want to feel? How fast do I want to be? And like, it's up to me then. I'm not competing with anybody else but myself. And I think that's a healthy way, because I'm just going out and I'm experiencing the outside and this device that I use as a tool, and that's it. It's pure, and it's not pure in like an elitist form. It's just like, I like riding bikes, and so I'm just gonna go and do that today. And it's not going to punish me, but I'm going to move my body, and it feels good. I feel good for doing it. I've burnt some calories. Hey, maybe I can even sneak that burger for dinner tonight, But I've done a bit more, whatever. But I think that's my healthy way of looking at it. It's there for a sense of adventure.
Yeah. One of the questions, but I think you just answered it through the last couple of questions. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, how have you found solace in the outdoors? But I think we pretty much just covered that.
Yeah.
Um,
I just,
and I don't know if there's anything. Yeah, that's it.
it's that peace of mind. It's that quiet. it's so many things, and it can be so many different things as well, depending on how you want to enjoy it. My first solace was cold water, swimming, dipping, whatever you want to do. It's sort of, you were cold enough or too cold to not think about anything else but your breathing and sort of making it through those minutes that you do it. And sort of, I find that so peaceful, as well as I do just not having any distractions and just getting on my bike and going. And so that's where my solace is, through those movements or through those feelings. You know, in comparison to the outdoors, I have no distractions. So that's, I think, my solace is on that bike, and it's in that water mostly. And then, you know, in times where I can't use them to, you know, physically, that's where I am in my mind. You know, sort of, okay, when I get out of here, that's a nice bike ride and a cold water dip, because that's what makes me feel good. Yeah, that's my solace.
Yeah, and I love that there's the physical aspect of getting exercise, of course, but I really love focusing on the intangible benefits, the mental
Yeah,
benefits, and I think they're way more powerful towards just overall happiness and whatnot. And this is something that is researched a lot, but I think there's so much to it, and there's so much that research hasn't tapped into. So it's really wonderful to hear your experiences,
yeah,
like solace and whatnot. Like it's so cool.
yeah. It's just it's one of the biggest things that has helped me in my entire life. And I don't want to sound corny and say like the outdoors saved my life, but it definitely did.
Yeah, a little slogan for you
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So what other ways do you think that you've identified through your reflections that the outdoors have helped your mental well-being?
Again, it's that sort of the physical aspect. I spent a year like agoraphobic. So any listeners sort of understanding that I didn't want to go outside, and I had like serious gut issues, and so I had such anxiety around like the toilet, what I was eating, through like an eating disorder paired with depression as well, and so that made it like very difficult to get outside, you know. So now when I do, I know I'm beating that time and time and time again, and I'm pushing those anxieties not even down but away time and time again. So again, it's not just the physical benefits, but it's the mental benefits for my own mind to know that I'm beating that. And so that's my sort of like fu to any of that anxiety I ever had about that, because it was seriously hard to get going when I first did. And my solo sort of hikes I do, or solo rides even, I've not found as hard. But when I first started the outdoors, I'd just go for walks up the fells here. That's what the mountains are called here. And so each time I did that again, that's just another notch in my belt, another go me, because I managed to get outside today. So literally taking a step over the threshold and going, I'm outside, that
Yeah.
I'd already won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that. It's almost like it sounds like you kind of took an incremental process almost, where it's like you kind of went
yeah,
bigger and bigger, got more
yeah.
comfortability.
I did, and we mentioned it in the brief before. But my first sort of outdoor walk up here was to a place called Rydal Caves, which is a big, beautiful cave that's been quarried out, just near to Ambleside. And my brother took me up there, and I never thought I could make it up there. And I was seriously overweight at the time. I don't know what it is in pounds, but I was around 24 and a half stone. And so the mile walk felt, you know, like I'd ran a marathon, especially coming down as well with all my weight on my knees and stuff. And so, but that was the push that I needed to go, I can do this. You know, I had my brother with me and my best friend Jake, and just I'm still to this day thankful for their support for that, because I don't think if they'd led me on that walk, I'd be, you know, where I am today if I didn't have that support network. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I've got a brother and friends, you know, like I do, to sort of tap me on the back, going, "Yeah, but you did that today, and go and do it tomorrow." And so I'd be like, okay, I can do that now. I took like a couple of navigation courses so I can read maps. And so like there we
Nice.
go. So we're off up the next hill. What's the next biggest from that, and the next biggest, and the next biggest, and sort of I built myself up to now where I'm like, right, lads, what mountain are we gonna lead each other up today, and who's gonna get lost, and who's gonna have a flat tire, and who's forgot the sandwiches, you know? And I can
Yeah.
lead with confidence. I mean, for 18 months, I worked for a business called Alpacally Ever After, and that was an alpaca and llama trekking experiences within the Lake District. And I used to take groups of 8 people to the top of a mountain with a llama each. You know, that's how far I've come to leading groups with animals, strangely enough, but amazingly enough, up to the top of a mountain. So it's a process, and I think it's really easy to see sort of in social media or on the television these days that like somebody's gone from this to this and bam, you don't see the hard work. I always talk about progress, and sort of one of my mottos has always been baby steps, little by little, and that's what sort of equated for me to like do these big adventures next. So hopefully I want to go to Europe, I want to get to North America and connect with some friends and do some gravel riding out there. It's all about, you know, the bit building. You gain your knowledge, you gain your confidence, you gain your experience, and all of a sudden you'll be at the top of those mountains that you didn't realize that you could get to. Then, and that's I had to build upon it, but I don't even think that about that foundation now because it's something I can do because I've moved forward with it. So as long as you're building and growing and moving forward from these things, I believe anybody can do this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And I love that you described the baby steps behind it. And I think that you also pointed out, a problem that we see with social media and TV. They make it just seem like someone was born right into this like hardcore existence in the mountains or whatever it is. And they don't show the process behind it. And I think there is a process behind it for everyone. And I think the best approach mentally is to not get, fixated on like, doing the hardcore stuff, but the baby steps to get to that ability, that comfortability and whatnot.
100%. I mean, sort of within cycling, I find there's so many incredible riders, but they're all like athletes. They are, professional riders, and they've taken years to do this hard training, and some people want to compare themselves to that, and that is absolutely fine. But I'd struggle just because I've struggled with my weight, I've struggled with my mental health, and I'm 33 now, so technically I'm never going to be a pro. I'm never going to be an athlete. But what I do enjoy is the bike, and let's think about that. Think about you. Think about yourself, and try not to compare yourself to these elite athletes, which is what they are. And that's where sort of I have struggled within the cycling world too. I'm not, most cyclists are like 60, 70 kilos. I'm 110 and 5'8", so I'm like a short, stocky guy. If I was in the States, I'd be playing football or I'd be playing ice hockey. I wouldn't be aboard a bike. And I think that's what's important for me is representing people of my body type or sort of like similar sort of body or whatever to that they can do this too, because even though there's this precedented norm, you can still do these things no matter like your size, your shape, your gender, and it sort of bleeds into what I am going to do this summer as well. We'll talk about my knee injury briefly, I guess, but I'm going to start a cycle collective called Outsiders, and that's based here in the Lake District from all those nomadic sort of people that have never felt part of something. When I was a musician, I was in the alternative music sector, and for a quote unquote mosher, I don't know if you've ever heard that word, but as a like somebody that's into alternative music, I always felt like outcast, and sometimes throwing myself into this sport, I feel like that too, and I want there to be a safe space and sort of like a place where people who may feel like that they can go to. There are cycling clubs all over, and that's fantastic, but you have to be to a certain standard. And what I want people to do is experience just gravel riding on our own terms for the adventure, not for the fastest time. I don't mind who you are. what I have no prejudice within race, gender, sexuality, whatever. Just if you like a bike, I'll show you the way. Yeah,
Yeah. Nick, that's fantastic. And it really reminded me of the support that you got from your brother, and it was your friend Jake,
yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah, because I was thinking, like, gosh, like, what about people that don't necessarily have that support system? What can they turn to? And I think, like, what you're going to be doing this summer. And so let's hear some more about that. What was the name of it again? Was it Cycling
So
Collective?
yeah, so it's outsiders. That's the tagline, but it's the a lakes cycling collective. We call it the lakes up here. There's plenty of them in the UK, but this is the Lake District, and so people come from all over the world to visit it. And so when people are here, or people that live here, and they don't necessarily know where to ride or what to ride, we're going to do sort of collective rides, maybe once a month or bi-weekly, those sort of things where we can show people routes. My brother's actually writing, or has written, and it's just waiting to be published, a Lake District gravel riding book. And that's been simply from me going, I lived up in Keswick on my own for a while, and I didn't have any friends up there until I, managed to make some connections here and there. And I was like, I just studied OS maps, and I was like, where can I go ride my gravel bike? And that's how this book's been born, is from my brother's process, similarly down here as well. And with that, we just want to take people with us that enjoy the sport. We're not the fastest riders, but what we are is passionate, and we just want to help other people on the way. And it makes me sad. I've always had a brother, always had a twin, always had a best friend. But if somebody doesn't have that, or somebody's not into what they want to get into, there's no entryway. And I hate to say, but like the outdoors environment is gatekept by a lot of elitism. Whether you want to be climbing or canoeing, kayaking, cycling, there is that because of what society brims on a stereotype, and there's none of those safe spaces, and you see more of them popping up. There's more and more, but I want to present a space to people and feel like they're part of a community. And there are already those communities here, but it doesn't focus on sort of, well, male attentive, but how do I explain it? Just I don't care who you are. I want you to just come and enjoy this,
Yeah, yeah, no, full
Yeah,
inclusion. Like, doesn't matter who
yeah.
you are. We're gonna go have fun. And gosh, Nick, I'm really, really inspired and just like stoked on this. This is fantastic. And so, when will this launch, and how can people find more information about
Cool.
it?
So it's still in it's sort of early stages. I'm getting all the branding done at the minute and those sort of things. And sort of, I'm just sort of waiting to see what I can do with my knee, because I would like to be on these rides as well, you see. So I'm hoping at least sort of like August time, it'll be ready to roll. I think my brother's book is due to be published in July, so it'll coincide nicely with there. And sort of off the back of what we were just saying about the inclusivity, I feel like there's lots of societies that have become so exclusive that it's not inclusive anymore. And so we're not about excluding anyone. It's all about no drop rides. It's just about having fun. You're included in this. If you want to ride with us, come and ride with us. So the Instagram is at outsiders.lcc. So if you want to go and drop that a follow, please do. Um, but there's more coming, and it's been coming soon, and it's something I've managed to focus my attention on now because of my injury. Because otherwise, I'd be off everywhere riding my bike. I have a full-time job too as well, but the injury slowed me down to the world's got a funny way of behaving sometimes. So I think it's maybe fate that I've had this idea for so long that I need to sit down and actually execute it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could be in fuller agreement that there is a lot of gatekeeping in the outdoors. And you see it in a lot of different ways. You look at websites, you see pictures of a particular person, maybe if for different types of parks and whatnot, with clothing brands, you see a certain type of person. And then sometimes you get microaggressions out there for people that don't think other people should belong or whatever it is. And I think that there's also the fact that a lot of, and here in America, there's a lot of dichotomous thinking. It's either you're in or you're out, you're right or you're wrong, you're black or
Yeah.
white, and it's not opening up to all this like gray area where everyone actually pretty much is at. And so to hear that you're providing some support with that and helping breaking down that gatekeeping, it's so important. Like it really needs to
Thank
become.
you. I believe so. I think, the world's evolved and we're changing how we think. And, I've been part of scrutiny because I am a certain size. There's a video, a reel on my Instagram about an incident I had with a man on a train. Please go and watch that for sort of a prejudice sort of view on society. That's where that comes from, Me and my brother and my Jake were up a mountain again. What are you guys? How did you guys get up here? Three stocky guys. I was like, wow, the ignorance behind those opinions is upsetting. But the more I can do for people sort of my size and my community, then we win each time. We're breaking down the stereotype. We're dissecting all that, and here's the beginning of the new world. Anybody can do anything. It's not up to anybody to decide. Society can have this tunnel vision if you want to, but I mean, I come from punk rock, so I don't believe, I'm a bit of a rebel. I don't believe in any of that sort of social norm. So, yeah, stuff them.
Yeah. No, I mean it's kind of the essence of punk rock of being an outcast. But I was thinking like, by you, your brother Jake doing this, and there's times that some aggressions might, some social aggressions you might, have to deal with that. But by setting and paving that way, it opens it up to more people.
Exactly.
More people that are like, maybe in a bad spot in life. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're kind of just being stuck and sedentary inside and aren't getting, they're not doing the next step. They're going to be inspired. There's going to be more. That inclusivity takes a while to open up. And I think that you're helping that open up a lot. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
thank you, man.
Yeah. So one of the things that I recently read about, and it's come up a little bit in research, is that I've heard that Canadian doctors are prescribing free passes to national parks. And I wish we did that in the U.S., but I probably know that what you're going to say about this, but I wanted to ask it anyways. What are your thoughts about doctors prescribing nature?
Okay, so we actually have it here in the UK.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do? Nice. That's awesome.
So, like I said, I used to work for a company called Alpacally Ever After. The NHS Foundation for Mental Health is called First Steps here in this area of the country anyway. And they were prescribing alpaca walks for wellness. So I think it's every other Wednesday, I used to take a group of 10 people around the grounds of a stately home here, just with alpacas to connect with an animal and to connect with nature. And do that, like, every time I see them, just smiles, new people, smiles, and sort of them having the responsibility of an animal and then being outside was a total disconnect from their own mind and their own worry. And so I know, again, like from my anxiety, sort of from my agoraphobia of stepping over that threshold and getting outside, each time somebody does that, they beat a part of that horrible anxiety up, or the depression. And so I could not recommend it more. It, again, I don't want to sound corny, but the outdoors genuinely sort of saved my life from deep, deep, dark times. And again, that's why I speak the way I do about the outdoors. I advocate for getting outside because it's given me so much wellness, not only mentally, but physically. I talked to you before about, I was 24.5 stone when I moved up here into 2020. I managed to lose sort of around 8 stone, which is insane amount of weight. And sort of I fluctuate now, but I don't, never gone past that because I'm moving my body and being just outside. So you've got like mental wellness and physical wellness as well. And then, there's all sorts of entries. You can start a new hobby if you want to walk, if you want to trail run, if you want to cycle, climbing and bouldering, anything like that. Yeah, let's push that for everybody. But here it's called Green Prescriptions, and I actually
Okay.
it's not available anymore. But I used to host a podcast called Green Prescriptions with a couple of friends who used to talk about getting outside for to aid mental health, and that was in like my infancy of outdoors.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
get it done.
That's such a cool podcast
Yeah,
name, Green
yeah.
Prescriptions. That's an awesome
Thank you,
name.
dude. It was yeah, and that was a fun time. It was really fun. I built a community around it. I've made some best friends. I actually met my girlfriend through it as well, and so we still got like a core sort of 10 people, but people I know sort of online as well. We still got this little community because everybody agreed that getting outside has helped them, and we advocated through that, and sort of through the Lake Districts we've done like hikes and swims and those sort of things together. So I just couldn't recommend it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a couple times you've mentioned agoraphobia. I'm actually not familiar with that term. If
Yeah,
you mind explaining it a little bit more
yeah. So my
thoroughly.
sort of I don't know sort of the dictionary term. So agoraphobia is sort of the fear of the unknown of the outside. So what triggered me, I had sort of a blanket term is IBS. I had gut issues and I didn't understand why. I was on that many elimination diets and sort of trying to figure myself out, but also due to depression, my food I found was comfort, and so the agoraphobia stemmed from like an eating disorder, effectively. And so I was sort of scared to go outside for fear of not being able to go to the toilet because it made my stomach bad, everything that I was eating. And so it was easy just to stay inside. And there even is now, there were so many mental barriers and blockers that I had to put in place to help myself get outside. And so now, like, my nutrition is, I'm still not amazing, but I'm better than I was. I don't comfort eat like I do. I know what my triggers are now. I take supplements to help with digestion, and I actually take an anti-anxiety medication to help slow that whole process down. And so there's been so many things that I've had to build to sort of build my confidence into getting us outside. But sort of for a year in 2019, I quit my full-time touring band, um, and so I had like a year of literally doing nothing. But I worked at a Starbucks, and there was cakes and sandwiches that I'd just be eating all the time. And sort of then I'd be like, oh God, I feel awful. But the food, the rush of serotonin would make me feel better. And I was caught in a vicious cycle, and sort of I broke the cycle by moving up here and changing my environment. And then the byproduct of that environment was I can't live in one of what an area of outstanding national beauty and not use it. And so from that, then I've been able to move on and go outside. But agoraphobia affects probably more people than you think, and I still think now, even if it's a miserable day or something like that, like I'm injured at the minute, I can easily waste a day on the PlayStation, no bother at all, and it still takes a lot of effort to get up and go and do something. Um, I'm just glad I did have sort of an outlet and somebody to help me with it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what would be your advice to someone that is stuck in that cycle? They have their reasons for not wanting to go outside, but like everything you said today, the outdoors, there's so many health benefits to it, the physical, the mental, all kinds of stuff. So, what would be your advice for someone that is stuck in that cycle but doesn't necessarily have the support that you've had?
I'd say again, start with those baby steps, those little things. So my first one was I'll go for a walk with friends, and just maybe friends, and they'll find me exciting walks. And like a condition was I hope I can park somewhere with a toilet because that'll help, and so that was my first start. So walk around the block. That's you're close to home. Can you get to the end of the driveway? Cool, yeah. So get to the end of the street, okay? And then the next day, maybe go to the next street over, you know? And then you can go from there on in, it's incremental. And before you know it, you look back and you think, wow, I've just I've hiked a mile. You know, like that first hike I did was a mile, a mile. Like I can run that now. I definitely couldn't then. You know, and so just start small. Overwhelming yourself with these huge things. Like, I want to be able to climb Helvellyn. Helvellyn's the third biggest mountain here. I've still not done it, but I will do because I've climbed, you know, the next one from it. So just start small. Don't bite off more than you can chew. We always walk before we can run. So just think what's about good for you, and don't think about anybody else's opinion on that. Just do it for you. So get to the end of the driveway, get to the end of the road, get around the block, and then see where you can go from there.
Yeah, baby steps plus do it for
Yeah.
yourself. And I think that incremental process going to the end of the driveway, then down the street, then to the next street, and eventually you're walking
Uh-huh.
a mile. I'm gonna imagine like after not having done that for a long time, something like that, and then building up to it, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of self pride has got to almost be contagious at that
Exactly.
point. And it's like, okay, let's
Yeah.
go bigger,
I mean, yeah,
but
baby
baby
steps. I
steps.
mean, like, I'm never going to climb Everest, but like 4 years ago, I was never getting out my front door, you know? So, we have to make it relative. And again, I don't like to sort of come back to social media, but there's some amazing people doing some incredible things, but make sure we're relative to you. And it's hard not to sort of seek like competitiveness or a comparability to anybody on the internet. That's the way it's set up, and that's how sort of society makes it feel. But really trying to think about yourself in this situation and nobody else, because it's your life, it's your body, and it's your experience, and that experience is so different to that person next door. So just please do it for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And everyone, it's cliche to say, but we're all
Uh-huh.
unique individuals, but we're unique in that we've all had a unique sequence of life
100%.
experiences too. And it's those life experiences that inform our mental functioning. And so because of that,
Yeah.
do it for yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, that competitive aspect of society, how do you navigate stuff like Strava? Because Strava brings about this like competitiveness, and like Strava's awesome to be like, okay, like I saw where I went, like I did an awesome loop, that's cool. But then like I use Strava for a little bit, maybe 7 to 10 times, and I was like,
Okay.
I'm not into it. Like I don't want to see how I'm doing, and like I don't care to get the kudos
Yeah.
from people. Um, so how do you
Yeah.
use Strava, and if so, how do you
Yeah,
navigate
firstly,
it?
my bio says not an athlete, so people know that when they've stumbled upon me that I'm not going to be guys with like these fastest times or anything like that, because I'm not bothered. But again, I use it for me. There's an amazing fitness tracker in there, even on the free version, that you can see how you sort of stack up month to month. But what I like to see is how far I've gone, how long it took me, and how many calories I burned. I'm not interested in any, like, if I see somebody else's when I scroll through the news feed on it, I'm like, good for you, you got it today. Good for you, you got it today. And that's why I deliver the kudos, because people are just getting out and doing their thing. And that's so sick.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at it, I'm
Yeah.
going, because I used it for a long time to help lose weight. And so I know sort of if I've burned 1,500 calories on a ride, well, then I'm in surplus of calories. So maybe I can sort of treat myself to some sort of nice, nicer food or a meal out or a treat or something like that, and sort of go off plan for an evening. Again, it was for me to record that data to see what I was doing, much like what you do on an Instagram newsfeed. You take a picture and go, okay, I went to the Sydney Harbour Bridge today. I'm on holiday. Look at me. And that ride was, okay, that ride was this, and that's what I did. What can I do next time to improve it? And just help creating routes as well for other people to see in the area. Where's Nick gone? Nick knows
Yeah.
that. Oh, give that a go. And sort of, people have done that for me similarly. I've been like, got some amazing cyclist friends around here, and I'm like, dude, I'm at a loss for where to go today. And so they'd be like, oh, well, check out this ride, or check out this ride. And so I'll get the GPX file, I load it into my bike computer or my Garmin watch, and I'm off. It's as simple as that. So, you know, again, it was for me just to, and I still do, just to collect my own data and my own experiences
Yeah.
per activity. That's as simply as that. I'm not on there comparing myself, and I think I'm really good at having a non-competitive edge because I've always been encouraging. I think it comes from being a twin, but I much rather somebody. I was having a good chat with my friend Ellis about this the other day. I much rather draw somebody up and help them than compete against them, and because I want them to do just as good, if not better. I'm not bothered about me in that sense. I want somebody to do well, and so again, it comes to sort of that point of like, I'm encouraging people to do it and not competing against anybody, because we're all individuals. We all have those experiences. And unless we're riding the Tour de France or whatever in a proper race, then I don't care. What's it matter? You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that competitiveness, I'm totally with you. Like, what does it matter? And I feel like it's almost cultivated in society to compare ourselves against people in a competitive way to build
Yeah.
self-esteem, but I feel like that's petty in comparison to the gratification of helping someone else and discover all this wonder and awe with
100%.
outdoors.
My friend Ellis, he just ran the Manchester Marathon, and he said he really struggled in the last quarter. I can't run a marathon, and he's insane. But this guy, he took time out of his own marathon time where he wanted to run a PB to encourage another guy who he could see was visibly really struggling to carry on through. And I was like, dude, that's a beautiful thing, you know,
Very
like
beautiful.
just good on you. I'm glad I'm friends with you. And I said, I was like, and this is because he's a great athlete. Ellis I think his ADHD is definitely something that helps him along his way on that. But he's always gone at everything, and he's gone really hard. And in February, we were on a trip together through the Peak District with like 5 other friends, and it was some of the biggest riding days I'd ever done. But he was so encouraging, and him pulling me through that, like my brother pulls me through, and then I can pull other people through. I just find so much more encouraging than a competitive sort of nature. And if people want to compete, there are races and events out there, um, and that's what they're designed to do. Go and compete in those. One that I'd found super cool. My brother's friends with a company called Paneer, and they've done a bike packing experience this year. It's somewhere in Europe, can't quite remember. I think it's Sardinia maybe, where they've gone, hey, this is not a race. It's a 200k ride across 3 days. Come and experience it with us. Sick.
Love it.
Who's done that before? No one. Because most
Yeah.
things, I mean, there's like Grindura, the Dirty Reaver, Duke's Weekend are all some amazing races that we do here in the UK for gravel specifically. But there's none. Anyone want to come for a ride and just like have a go? I think Brother Cycles are doing one that I can't quite remember, but that's like a bike packing experience. But they're few and far between in comparison to the races, and so
Yeah,
the race is
absolutely.
there for competitive sort of people. Fine, that's great, but I'm not one of them. And whoever isn't, let's go do these other cool things. And
Right. I mean, I think, if people are seeking that competitive type of
yeah,
race, go for it. Like, that's what you want. But I think that I think it sounds really exciting to hear about going for a ride, and there's maybe 2 nights that are part of it. And I was just thinking about the community that would be made through that, all the new friends and whatnot. I feel like that's
yeah,
beautiful
I do
right
too.
there.
And that's again sort of with outsiders. That's our plan, is to bring people here for those experiences, and like you can try for the fastest known times. That's absolutely fine. And those efforts to you, but we're here for the experience. We're not here for the competitive. Um, yeah, there's too much comparison to other people in life, and so just think about you and do it for you, and just do it for the adventure.
Yeah, focus in on your own quality experience.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, let's go back to you. You mentioned that you had an injury earlier, and I wanted to know, luckily, you're working on a project
Yeah.
while you're injured, which that's almost like a little bit of a mental
Uh-huh.
adventure itself. Um, but being injured can be really challenging because now it's like it's a lot tougher to be outside. It's a lot tougher to go to the places you want to go. And so, what type of mental tricks, mottos, toolboxes do you use to stay positive during an injury?
Good question, man. I mean, it's hard because I think naturally I'm quite a positive person because I don't know, it sounds dumb because I've been let down a lot, and sort of within depression I always had to see some light, right? So for me there's always a focus on the light at the end of the tunnel, and that injury and illness is only momentary, but you can adapt to it, and this too shall pass. It will come again at some point. You just got to have to be patient and ride it out. Um, and so for me, it's having something to look forward to. Um, I'm going to Scotland in July. I'm hoping at the end of July, and I'm just hoping that I'll be ready for that to get back on a bike. So that's sort of me. That's keeping busy, keeping thinking. Cool, there's some amazing terrain. I can ride up there in July. Let's hope I'm ready for that. But if not, I'm being like, well, I'm going to have to book another trip that when I am ready for, and just keep working on those things. And I think I haven't had my scan yet or my appointment with the trauma because it's taken like a whole month to get together. So that's this next coming week. So I can't wait to sort of see when I'm pretty sure I'll need an operation on my knee, but to work towards the physio. So I know that when I'm doing the physio, I'm building myself back to getting ready to be back on the bike. And I think the whole encouragement is just getting back to where I was, to bettering myself. It's only helping me. And it all sounds quite narcissistic sometimes. I keep talking about going back to yourself and sort of helping yourself. But if you can't help yourself, you can't pull anybody else through with you either. And so,
That's what
yeah,
I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too, because I think that maybe, and I've never really explored this, but maybe there's a level of narcissism that is needed to better benefit other
yeah,
people.
because I'd never say I'm a narcissist. I say I put anybody else before myself, and that's fairly quite
Yeah.
selfless. But what I do think about is myself in situations because I want to help other people, and so it's that focus on getting better so I can do better for society, for my own community. I think that there has to be an air of like selfishness, I guess, to fix yourself, to heal yourself if you want to help other people. Um, yeah,
But maybe it's in the motivation. Maybe it's in the motivation because, like, of course, you want to, make sure that you're healthy yourself, but your mindset is being motivated to help yourself because then you can
yeah,
be out in the
yeah.
community, and you can be out in the community, and so there's not necessarily the narcissistic
No,
motivation. You got to take care of yourself to
uh-huh.
take care of other people is what it kind of comes down to. So it's that other people aspect of the motivation that I think is where there's maybe a difference between narcissism and maybe being
Yeah,
wanting to help people, but you help
exactly,
yourself first.
exactly. So just I'm a positive guy. I'm a happy guy. Keep the light at the end of the tunnel. Like it'll always pass. It'll always get better. It's a it's a moment at a time, and sort of within this time, it's so frustrating. It's sort of as soon as I injured myself, the weather turned, and it's been beautiful here. I've been waiting to ride all winter in just in shorts and t-shirt, or in shorts and a jacket at least, because cycling in the elements is not fun, and we're in one of the wettest parts of this country. So I mean, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to feel the rain on your skin because it sort of makes you feel alive, but also I don't want to get battered by the rain all the time, and I want to enjoy a coffee outside or something like that. So um,
Yeah.
I know eventually it'll pass, and it sucks right now. Like it's frustrating, but I'm trying to put my frustrations and turn that into passion, and sort of work on outsiders. And I'm doing a qualification for my job and those sort of things. I keep myself busy with video games in a healthy way. Yeah, so I'm still just trying to keep busy, keeping a routine, and be constructive mostly. It's difficult at times, and some days are better than others, and I'm tired and I'm in pain and it hurts, but I know it'll pass.
Yeah, yeah, that's really lovely stuff, Nick. And I was reflecting on myself when you were talking just now, and just the other day, my wife was like, Brian, like you're kind of really negative about your job right now. And we're getting close. We got about 2-3 weeks left in the semester here, and it's always like the busiest time of the year at university. And so it's just busy. It's just busy. But I've been, because of the busyness, it's been almost like too much to even like handle. And so I've had some negativity, and she's like, your negativity is like getting me negative. And I was like, gosh, like I need to like really work on that. Like I didn't know I was doing it. And so it was
For
great to
sure.
get called out. It was fantastic to get called out. I didn't know I was doing it, but I was just thinking about how you have this positive mindset. You're able to, and I guess maybe it's a mental toolbox where it's like it's not as easy as said as as done probably, but even in the hardest of times, trying to find some sort of light, some sort of silver lining to be like, okay, like I'm going to move towards that.
Yeah,
in baby
exactly.
steps.
And I think there's no matter how shit it is, there is always some good element somewhere. You just have to really look hard to pull at it. And like right now, I might be out for a year. I might be out for 2, but I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I'm well, and I can ride my bike. And I'm quite good at living viscerally through other people. I'm like, luckily, I've got some great friends around me that go off and ride their bikes, and I'll be like, oh, let's scroll through Instagram. Oh, they've been out today. Oh, they've been out today. And it's sort of my gratitude for other people sort of helps me as well. I'm like, good for them. Good for them. If you're friends with me, I'm probably your best cheerleader. I'm that sort of person, So just keep thinking of that light. Keep thinking of that light.
Yeah, and I think being a cheerleader too, there's something about that helps my gratitude, which my gratitude, if I can see gratitude in different instances or in big experiences or whatever it is, that really fulfills me a lot,
Dude,
actually.
I don't know why, but as of late, I felt so emotional towards people that have been doing amazing things for themselves. So just watching somebody complete like a big race or a big ride, it chokes me up because I'm like, good for them, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because that people anybody can do this, and they put their mind and their body through that hard work and effort to do that, and it's relatable. So just I think that it's a nice thing to be happy for someone else, even if you can't do it. Resentment and hate takes so much energy and so much sort of effort to live with those things, And so I think if you sort of, I keep a journal and I practice thankfulness and gratitude and all those things, and that sort of definitely helps me as well. If I can't be happy for myself right now, and I'm trying, I can be happy that I know my brother's actually going on this trip that I was supposed to be going on to Scotland next week. Amazing. I hope the lads have a great time. Just bring me some food from Scotland back because it's all great, like that. That's it. Bring me back an iron brew. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and like so, I was thinking about how the outdoors and gravel riding has kind of served as this medium for your happiness and whatnot. But I was trying to kind of almost like zoom out past there and not just focus on the outdoors or biking, but focus in on what are things that are to maybe feel adventuresome for people to be constructive and to be productive about something. And so, and I think I was thinking that because you're injured right now and you're talking about your project that's coming up this summer, and that right now you're not riding, you're not getting outdoors as much. And so I was thinking about the value of mental adventures, maybe too. That where it helps us feel productive and constructive, and we're digging into something. We're doing it for ourselves, I guess. What it comes down to. I mean, you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it to help other people.
But make a plan. Like look forward to something. Like that's I think that's what helps me. Like I'm always thinking about the next one. We spoke about it before. It's that reconnection to nature and to being a child again. You've got no curfew because you're adult now, so you can do whatever you want to do. And so create your own adventure.
Yeah, no, I love that a lot. And a sense of adventure. I'm now thinking of sense of adventure in terms of physical adventures, going out and riding, going out trail running, but
Yeah,
also mental adventures of putting something together to help other people, no
yeah.
matter what that is. Those are so much
So much
fun.
fun, and I think you don't sort of you won't necessarily think about those things. I'm thankful that I'm creative, so I can create an outlet to do something like that. But again, that's not only sort of it's a mental challenge, and that'll help you overcome other hurdles as well. If you're working towards something, so that the outside is and as much as an adventure it is on a bike, it is for me developing a brand and an identity and a whole wider community. There's so many
Yeah.
things to think about on that aspect. Like adventures literally don't need to just be a tent in the middle of nowhere. It can strive to be whatever else you want it to
Yeah.
be. Like I mean, I'm doing a qualification for my work at the minute, and that's a challenge. It's sort of degree level stuff, but that's an adventure in itself because I'm entering sort of a new world of whole like legislation of stuff that I don't really know. So I've got to research, I've got to read, I have to write about it, and so there's another adventure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's something that I feel like is innate in human nature, whether because we're gregarious, we're social, but wanting to help other people. Society has this like construction of a lot of
Hmm.
competitiveness. Capitalism is competitiveness. My job being a researcher, I competitively compete for
Yeah,
grant awards. There's a lot of competition. There's students are competing for good grades, and I think that there's this thing of helping other people out is really what we're
yeah,
meant to do. I feel like that, I think that's actually what we're meant to do, where when we get competitive against one against the other, we're forgetting about that we're all imperfect beings.
nope.
None of us are perfect. And like we all need help. Like I need help and we all need help. And so have you ever read, and this isn't a straight, strong connection, but there's a little bit of a connection. And I can't really relate to what I'm going to say too much, but did you ever read Anthony Kiedis's book, Scar
No, I did
Tissue?
not.
No. So, and I'm sure you're probably familiar, having a big background in music and whatnot. But for those people listening out there, Anthony Kiedis is the lead
Yeah, yeah.
singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he wrote a book called Scar Tissue that I think came out maybe early 2000s or late 90s. But in the book, he talks about how he's trying to get over
Wow.
his heroin addiction. And this is the part that I don't have, I don't have a background. I can't really relate to it, but he kept on getting sober, then getting back into it, getting sober, getting back into it. And so he started going to some meetup groups where people are going through the same type of rhythms, where they're sobering up, getting back into it, sobering up, getting back into it. And he said those meetings were great. It was great to have a support cast with people, but at those meetings, they started giving each person responsibilities so that those meetings could
Okay.
function. And so Anthony's responsibility was to get there first and set up the chairs in a circle. So very simple. We're
Yeah.
talking baby steps here. And he started doing stuff for other people to help with their health and their well-being. And that is what helped him get sober. That was like, it was like
Wow.
almost like something switched where he's like, I can't be messed up, because if I'm messed up the night before, I'm not going to get in there early. I'm not going to set up those chairs in a circle. And then the people aren't going to get the help and
Wow.
support that they need. And then that got him onto the track of
Wow.
lifelong
That's
sobriety.
powerful. That and equally, I can sort of relate to sort of my problem with eating or that if I'm not well, I can't be well to go on my adventures, and therefore that won't help anybody else. And in my job, I look after children that have come from vulnerable positions in their life, whether it may be crime or drugs or family, and they come to us for 17 weeks, and we sort of rehabilitate and restore a child through the outdoors. And equally, if I don't help myself, I'm not going to be there to support those kids like day in day out. And yeah, that it's a natural process. It doesn't feel unnatural to me. It's not competitive, and we're there to help and pull people up. So hugely relatable. And I think the world strives for success, but maybe not in ways that are humankind. It is competitive. Like, who's got the most money, who's the sexiest, who's the prettiest, who's got the biggest bottom. It's crazy these days.
Yeah.
And so really we can think like, who's the guy that's going to help out the world the most? I'm doing my part.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely are. And like it's interesting, this transformation that you've kind of gone through in your life, where you were a touring musician for a number of years. You discovered the outdoors, you discovered gravel riding, and then now you're taking that into your own hands and kind of starting up your own business to help people out. And that transformation is just so cool.
It's great, dude. And sort of I've reflected like 15 years, and just as you were talking there, and it's mad to think where I've come from and like who I am as a person now versus then. That's, I used to be competitive. I used to be resentful. I used to be hateful, and I'm just not that person anymore, because I just want the best I want the best for myself and anybody else that wants to come through and join me.
Yeah, and the way that you said that, like I like was having this mental image of you just like kind of having wings and being free away from the competitiveness, the resentment,
and that's how I feel. And like I'm. Sometimes it's hard because I'm not part of this competitive thing, because that's how we're supposed to perceive to be. I think, but it's much better that I'm creating a foundation just for another movement of something that everybody enjoys. I think it's just good fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to start kind of pushing towards the conclusion of our episode, but I did want to ask you a couple more questions. The first one being, have you ever seen that ride? And so there's the Unbound Gravel out in my area that is super popular. But gosh, you got me thinking that that's something that's very, very popular. But maybe we need a ride out here that's like you go from one town to the next via gravel roads, and maybe it's a set number of miles each day, maybe 50 miles or something, and it's just like, hey, like everyone, you start after breakfast, after your morning coffee, we'll see you in town, we'll grab some wine and beers that night, have a good meal, then we'll go to the next town, and just kind of create a loop like that. And I was
Unbound is probably the one that does it the best like that.
Okay, I don't know much about
what I understand, and there's a couple of riders that I follow on social media, that there's a collective of people like myself who just like riding bikes, but we're not the athletes, with people who just enjoy bikes. And Unbound's one of the ones that definitely do it the best. And I think because gravel riding, it's a North American thing mostly. It's it has spread to Europe, but your country is vast in comparison to ours, so you've got all these amazing forest access roads, and here we really have to piece bridleways and B roads together. It's difficult to find true gravel riding here, because like I said, most of the time I'm using my gravel bike like a mountain bike, for some of these rides. It's quite technical, but there are, forests. There's a Grisdale Forest, which is across Lake Windermere, that has these massive flowing tracks, but some really steep up hills, and sometimes it's punishment, and it's fine. It's great. But yeah, North America does it well in those sort of things. But I think we're starting to see the influence of, like I was saying, like the Panea Roma trip and whatever it's going to do my head in what the Brothers Cycle is, that maybe there are these people that are into this thing, but they don't have that competitive nature. And so we can see more people just enjoying whatever it is for exactly what it is, and without any competition.
Yeah. It's the way that races are designed. That's just one conceptualization of riding. There's a lot of other conceptualizations that might fit other people better, and some people might want this type of conceptualization. And I think that that's something that's actually not really identified too much. I think that people don't realize within writing there's so many conceptualizations of writing, and so many different ways to go about
and I think that's it again, like it's that broadening of the world now, maybe, that we're opening up to so many different things, because just because the Olympics started in like the 1900s and they're all competing for athleticism now doesn't mean we need to be doing that like nearly like 100 odd years later. Like let's do something different. Like maybe humankind is changing, that we can just enjoy sports together for what it is. There's always gonna Yeah,
because it's
it's
play.
play. It's fun. It doesn't have to be, a football. Like soccer's huge in this country, and that can stay the same. Because but again, like we all enjoy. I enjoy a kick around with the kids that I work with, those sort of things. There's so many ways. Just because I can't play football like them doesn't mean I can enjoy it the same. We can all do
Right.
these things, but maybe let's start looking at those different avenues of how we can enjoy it, not just that conventional way.
Yeah, and I think that within the world of social media and the internet, there's
Uh-huh.
also a lot of good out there because and social media and the internet, you're seeing these communities that are popping up that are supporting people that aren't interested in this one type of conceptualization. They might be interested in a
Yeah,
different type of conceptualization, and so that helps people find those support groups, find that community. And I think that's one thing that's maybe a positive outcome of some of the social media stuff that's going on right now, and the internet, versus there's also a lot that comes with social media
yeah,
that's tough to
agreed.
navigate.
Yeah, let's focus on the positive and move forward with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Nick, this was a really wonderful conversation. I wanted to say thanks for bringing a level of vulnerability to it. And when people are vulnerable in conversation, I think it really heightens the connection. Like we're both imperfect human beings. We're out there putting on the table. We're conversing about it, and we're able to have so much more depth to our conversation by bringing vulnerability to it. And so, really wanted to just say thanks for bringing that to this conversation. You and I have never met in person. This is the first time we're meeting, and to bring that vulnerability, that takes a little
Thank
bit of
you, man.
courage. So
I
thank
think
you.
if I don't show exactly who I am and what I've been through, and some people might never find that relatable, and I think that's the key thing for me is to be relatable. I've spoken about in talks that I've done previous about being as open as I can be, and sometimes on the inside it still feels uncomfortable, but I know that hopefully it'll do more good than it will for that feeling that will pass. And so it's my pleasure, really is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been wonderful. I'm gonna throw on that outro music, and we'll call it an episode.